Sustainability has several dimensions. So how can you decide whether your bio-based design is good enough? You might have a combination of qualitative and quantitative data available. And the sustainability impacts can be conflicting. Some are positive, others are negative. Furthermore, people may value qualitative information differently, based on their own views. Multicriteria Analysis, in short MCA, is a tool that helps in making decisions in such a situation. You might wonder now, what is the difference with the concept of weak and strong sustainability? Well, MCA does not attempt to use monetary values for evaluation. This has several advantages, because it can be difficult or undesirable to put a price tag on all aspects of sustainability. For example, how do you express biodiversity in monetary values? The price or value can also be different in views of different stakeholders. Another advantage of MCA is that it allows comparison of multiple bio-based processes or products. But where do we start if we want to undertake an MCA? First, you need to state the objective of your bio-based process or product. For example, the objectives of your bio-based product are to improve the environmental impacts compared to fossil production and to have a profitable product. These objectives are the basis for defining the criteria that define these objectives. It is very important that these criteria are measurable. It is also important that they are not redundant, which means that they should not count on an aspect more than once. In our example, the first objective is to improve the environmental impacts. There are many environmental impacts that we can consider, so we should be careful that they are not redundant and they should also be relevant. I have selected a few common criteria, which you can see on the sheet. They are climate change, acidification, eutrophication, energy use, and toxicity. For each of these criteria, I want to determine how well my bio-based product performs. The second step is to determine the specific evaluation indicators to use for the selected criteria. These indicators are used in the MCA to determine the overall sustainability score. For example, climate change can be indicated using the global warming potential. On the sheet you can see the criteria and the indicators that I have selected. The third step is to score each of the criteria. Scoring can be based on different methods. For instance, results from measurements, model simulations, or expert opinions. Quantitative as well as qualitative scoring can be used. This is another real advantage of MCA. In situations where measured data is scarce, there is the option of scoring and weighting based on stakeholder opinions. In the fourth step, the scores are standardized. This is also called normalization. Normalization is a process that makes the scores comparable despite their units or qualitative nature. In the normalization step, all the scores are rescaled to a range of 0 and 1. This eliminates the different dimensions and makes them comparable. In the example, I have compared the scores against the alternative fossil product. There are different normalization methods, but a common approach in MCA is to score each criterion relative to the alternative with the highest score. The highest scoring alternative then always gets a 1, and all the other alternatives get scores less than 1, but proportionally to how they compare to the highest score. Note that you do need to transform negative scores to positive scores. In the fifth step, weights can be introduced to rank the importance of the criteria. In the example on the sheet, I have indicated the importance of the criteria to me. I do not find all the criteria equally important. You need to translate these valuations into relative weights, for example using a percentage. Introducing weights can be a good way to take different perspectives into account, for example of the different stakeholders. The last step is to aggregate all the scores to obtain the final sustainability score. This is done by multiplying the standardized scores with the weight percentages, and then summing these results to obtain the final sustainability score. To summarize, multi-criteria analysis is a systematic tool to help us decide on the basis of multiple criteria. MCA consists of 6 steps. First, choosing our criteria, then choosing the appropriate indicator for each criterion, scoring, normalization of the scores, weighting of the different criteria, and lastly, the calculation of the total score.